going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So in the last video you saw me kind of put this entire motor together. Since then we've actually got the bell housing and the transmission fixed and made it up to it, and we've also installed the motor mounts into the car. Obviously we've got a little bit more space here in the garage now. Not really. We cleared out a ton of space and then immediately moved the car inside because it's starting to get cold out and it's a little bit more comfortable to work inside the garage where I've got a heater and I can have some light overhead so I can work. So with that being said, on today's episode we are going to be installing the motor and the transmission into the car, and we might be getting a couple more components on the motor itself, just that way we can figure out where we sit space-wise. So obviously this is the extremely nerve-wracking part because kind of where the rubber meets the road, and we put a lot of work into this motor, we put a lot of work into the transmission, and now it can all go sideways. But that's not the plan. We're gonna think happy thoughts here, and we're gonna get this thing tilted, we're gonna get it lifted up and set in. Off camera, I trimmed up a little bit of the extra mounting plate material because I'm an idiot and did not think through where my turbo drains were going to be, but it was not much of the material on there. So now I got those lines able to feed directly in there without compromising any of the integrity of the fitting or anything like that. So we shouldn't have any issues, but we'll find out whenever we make the turbos and really start getting into the end stages of this build. For now, we're going to move to the underside of the car, and we're going to get the transmission mount all put together and get the transmission mounted up. So that way we can release the engine crane and it can sit in its final resting place. All right, well that sucked a lot worse than I thought it was going to. The trans mount itself, not only were there bolts in the subframe and everything that were super hard to get to, I also noticed that I was missing two of the bolts out of the bottom of my transmission to actually mount it to the trans mount itself. So I had to go out, buy those, and then install them, and there just wasn't a lot of space under there. But everything is bolted up. And I'll kind of show you that right here. So you can kind of see here, I've got the trans mount itself bolted into the subframe, and then over here on the other side, it's bolted into the subframe, and then down center, I've got the mount itself up into the transmission, and then it's bolted in right here. So everything is super solid. It's not going anywhere. So now we get to move back up to the motor now that it's in its final resting place and put the rest of the valley cover plate on, the intake on, etc. So this is the part that I was really looking forward to. Getting this valley cover plate bolted down, getting the steam port kit bolted up, and then throwing the intake on top of that. And then we'll be able to move to the headers and other stuff on here and start mocking some stuff up. Now we can put the steam port kit on. My kit specifically, I got some rear delete blocks. Originally, I had a full steam port kit that was all hard lined. Due to it being cheap and poorly made, it completely shattered on me while I was trying to put it all together, and it didn't necessarily fit with my intake. So I just decided to go with the rear delete blocks, also made in China. And I went with a stainless steel line that is going to connect the two, and then this fitting over here has a provision to run a fitting off of it, and that fitting is going to connect into our radiator hose. There's a lot of people online that will tap their water pump, and I tried to do that the first go around and ended up tapping the hole a little bit too large, and it ended up blowing a hole through it. And then I tried to salvage it by welding the fitting onto it. Once again, destroyed that. So I have to bite the bullet, buy a new water pump. It's not the worst thing in the world. I know that it'll be brand new. And I decided to go with another cheap Chinese part in hopes that I would be able to make this one work. And we'll see how well this goes. But Got these rear delete blocks right here, which they look really pretty, at least. So we'll get these kind of set on here, and then we'll also get the fronts hooked up, and then we can go ahead and throw the intake on. All right, we've got the steam port kit and the coolant crossover kind of buttoned up. So now our next step is going to be the intake. This is the part that I've been waiting for, because this really does seal up the motor for the most part, other than spark plugs and the exhaust. Now all of these intake bolts can be set to 89 inch-pounds in a two-step process. We're gonna go 44 and then 89. So all right, so I did speed up a little bit. We've got the intake bolted down, and you can see that I've also put in my injectors. I've got my injector spacers, my fuel rails all put on, and everything fits up really, really nicely. So I'm taking a bit of a break from topside motor here, and I'm actually going to show you a bit of footage that was taken a while ago where I was setting up my hydraulic clutch pedal assembly, because now that we're running a T56, we had to add a clutch pedal and we had to add a couple other things. So you'll kind of see that process here in a second. And then once we're done with the clutch pedal assembly, we'll come back out to the motor. Now with a lot of the stuff that we've done, like the interior stuff, I didn't get to film a lot of it because I was usually busy, life got in the way, and I just started doing some work on some stuff, and I was kind of focusing the time on getting it done, having my son help me. He's actually out here today, and he's actually going to be helping me with our next project. So if I've explained to you guys already that this was an automatic transmission car, so because of that, we've gone ahead and we have ripped out the pedal assembly because we need to make way for a clutch assembly. Because we're going with the T56, that means that we're going with a hydraulic clutch, and there's plenty of companies that make hydraulic conversion kits for these cars, usually 68 Camaros, but it transfers over to the Firebird as well because it's a 68 F body. So we've got ourselves a Holley hydraulic clutch conversion kit that we're going to be throwing on the car. Now to do that, that usually means that you'll have to get a clutch and brake pedal assembly for these cars. Because this car was an automatic from factory, it came with this pedal setup, which is just the brake pedal, and it's got the wider pad for the brake pedal. Now I've gone ahead and done a little bit of research, and looking at the pedal assembly itself, buying a brand new one of these built for a clutch setup, the brake pedal is smaller, or I should say narrower, than the automatic pedal assembly, and it comes with the clutch pedal itself. Now, you can spend $80 and buy that and understand that you'll probably have to swap that out anyway because Holley gives you a pedal to put on there. And I thought, well, in the spirit of saving money, I'll buy the clutch assembly from Holley, and we're going to modify our automatic pedal to fit what we need. After digging up pictures online, there's two different versions depending on what company you go for. You can either get the straight version of it, or there are some companies that make this curved arm and then you get a smaller pedal. Now what I looked at is, if we put our clutch pedal on here, it's obviously going to fall in line with this, and because there are still companies that make this curved arm, this one should fit what we need. All I have to do is actually cut this pedal down to a certain degree, and then we will actually be able to maintain this brake pedal assembly because it still uses this stock arm right here. So today that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the pedal assembly out of the Holley kit, and we're going to match it up and make sure that both of them are the right size. We're going to get it all fit up and everything so that way we know where to cut, and then we may have to re-weld on the back just a little bit so that way we know that our pedal is strong whenever we go to press it. So our first step to getting the new pedal assembly on there, we're going to have to take this little bracket off. So it's usually held in by a retaining clip. We're going to place it in there.
And twist it?
You don't have to twist it. So look here, there's this little arm right here, and it holds onto that, which prevents it from falling out. So then all you do is pop it off that way.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So now that you've taken that retaining clip off of it, you can go ahead and knock out this arm. And you can go ahead and take your pedal assembly out. Very, very simple mechanics here. It's got a spring on here that keeps the pedal pressure in the back. And this pin that's sitting in the bottom of it right here is the locking pin for the brake arm that either goes into your manual master cylinder or into a brake booster. So in this kit, you're gonna get your clutch pedal arm with the pedal. You're gonna get a pad to go on the clutch pedal itself. You're gonna get a fluid reservoir bracket that hooks on to the actual master cylinder. You're gonna get your reservoir itself. You're gonna get Ollie's hydraulic master cylinder here. And then you get a bunch of different things like mounting brackets. You get the clutch linkage arm. You get more mounting brackets, bushings, washers, spacers, clips, and various nuts and bolts. That'll help you put it all together, and the instruction manual that really does a good job on how to set up the entire system. One of the first steps, because we're modifying this stock pedal here, I've gone ahead and I've grabbed the clutch pedal itself, and I've added the spacer that's given to us in the kit. I'm just going to slide it on here. You can see that we have a good amount of space in here so that we can get the brake booster arm on here, and we can also get the clutch pinion arm in here as well. But take a look, we have good clearance here, but our stock pedal for the brake is making contact right here, and it is touching here. Now what we could do is just cut out enough so that way both of these miss each other, but when I'm going and pressing the clutch or I'm in a race scenario, I don't want to get these two mixed up. So what I'm going to do is actually take this clutch arm right here, I'm going to slide it off. I'm actually going to just match it up against the outside edge here, get the measurements, and cut off the amount that I need for this arm. Whenever these two are here, I'm going to cut somewhere in here, so we'll have a good amount of space over here, so I shouldn't get the two mixed up, and I shouldn't accidentally press the brake when I'm trying to clutch, or I shouldn't press the clutch when I'm trying to brake. That also means though, on the back side here, because this arm is welded off to the side a little bit, whenever I cut this off, that means that I'm probably gonna have to take some of this arm material and re-weld it over here, just that way it holds properly and we don't have this pedal breaking off on us. So that's what we'll do next. To make my life simple and just know that they're gonna be almost dead accurate to each other, I'm just gonna take a piece of tape and we are gonna just do a rough outline there, match it up edge to edge. And remember, we're not in the business of totally accurate here, we just want good enough. And now I know that this is roughly where I need to make my cut lines. So we'll go ahead and cut that, and then we'll move on to the next part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make that cut, and I'm also going to mark right about here in the center of the arm and the pedal itself. Not the center of the pedal, but I'm gonna line these two up so that way, in the event when I cut, I don't actually catch one of the welds and it ends up falling off. Kind of know where to place that pedal, so that way I'm happy with the placement. I was making sure it didn't fall on my foot. So now that we've got this cut off, I have a weld that is barely holding this pedal on, but it is good enough because I'm using this piece of angle iron right here, and it is the perfect candidate to go ahead and butt up against this, and we'll go ahead and weld it onto the pedal here, and that will give us enough space to put a pad on here eventually, and it'll definitely stiffen up the pedal because when we go to press this, we don't want this snapping off. So I'm gonna go ahead and reinforce all this real quick, and then we'll move on. So I wasn't totally happy with how well this is supporting this pedal assembly on here. So it's pretty good, but I still only have that one point of contact. So what I think I'm gonna do is cut another channel out of it, make some flat stock, and run a bar from this point down to this corner, and then I know that it'll be braced up properly and I shouldn't have any worries after that. And then I'll cut off a little bit of this area right here so that way it looks a little prettier and we'll be good to go. I got a little bit more done before I went inside and put my kids down. So we did get that piece of flat stock welded on there. As you can see, is it pretty? No. Does it work? Yes. So we now have a brake pedal that's going to work great for our application. We'll get everything put back together and we'll see how it works. In addition to that, I also took the stock arm and we painted it black because everyone knows that a little coat of black paint equals brand new. So now that we've got all the parts painted and looking nice, got this right here, which is our modified brake pedal, which is going to work great. And then we've got our stock arm that controls everything. Could I have bought a brand new assembly for $80? Yes. In the spirit of saving money, I didn't spend it. And we were able to modify what we currently had. Was it worth it? I think so, because I already had the welder available, and if I can make it work, why not? Will it actually work? I guess we'll find out whenever it comes time to drive the car for the first time and I either come to a complete stop at a stoplight or I wrap myself around a telephone pole. So now that we're at this point, the fun part begins of putting in all the new PTFE bearings and getting everything put back into the arms. That way we have our assembly. We've gone ahead and put our clutch assembly back into the box and it looks great. Everything fits up really nice. There's decent space in between the two. And if we take a look over here, this rubber pad even fits onto here very, very nicely. I've already tested it. They should be, because they are the same size. So we can just order a replacement one of these and go ahead and slap it on there as well. The super awesome thing about these older cars is that oftentimes production was made easier by just using the same bodies over and over and adding filler panels. So even on these automatic cars, we actually have a spot for a clutch master cylinder to run through the firewall, and it's just plated up. So all we got to do is take the plate off, put our mount on the back of it, go ahead and drill out all of the holes for the new mounting spot and place it in there. So Holley's instructions are to take this mounting plate and apply it to the firewall, and then they say to enlarge the hole where that oval is and to go ahead and drill the 3 holes that are for the mounting itself. I've already got my line marked out for where I want to take out the material, so I'll take off that mounting plate and I'll go ahead and cut out the rest of the material and we should be good. So I've taken my mini carbide bits and you can see I have enlarged the area for that oval. So now we clear that entirely and we'll be able to set the outside mounting plate up here and get it all attached. Our next step is drill out 3 holes, that way we can go ahead and mount the outer body to this. All right, we have drilled out the 3 holes for our mounting plate. One here, one here, one here. We've cleaned up all the edges and the burrs so it's completely smooth. Same with here, so that way whenever we go to put some RTV on there, we know that it's not contacting any weird spots and it's all flush. All right, after a bit of a fight, we got all of the bolts, a little bit of Loctite on there. They're screwed down on the other side. We've got the entire master cylinder put into the car and it is solid in the firewall, so we should have no issues. All right, so you can see that we've got the clutch master cylinder in place. We've got both pedals in here now. And after taking a look at the gas pedal, the clutch pedal, and the brake pedal, they all fit really, really nicely inside of the car. While we were at it, we got the clutch master cylinder right there, and we actually had the brake booster put in as well. This car came with manual brakes, and I wanted to upgrade to a brake booster just because I know that for daily driving and comfort, and eventually if I ever sell this car, I know that this is going to be a good modification to have, and it's going to have a lot better pedal feel, especially when we convert to disc brakes. All right, it's back current day. You can see here we've got that brake booster still installed. I went ahead and put the brake master cylinder right here, and I've kind of fit everything up. Obviously the motor's already in the car, so now that this is here, I know that everything is test fit properly. While we're at it, I also got all the pedals kind of mocked up. Obviously the gas pedal is hooked up now. The brake pedal itself is now mounted up to the booster, and the clutch pedal is also hooked up to the master cylinder rod, and everything operates correctly. I did have to do a little bit of clearancing on the arm itself up there. You can see where it's rubbing just a little bit, but that'll take care of itself over time. I'm not too worried about it. The big thing is all the pedals are now even with each other, which is good. everything feels really solid, and I have tons of clearance here. So now that all the pedals are done and installed, I can move back outside to the rest of the motor. So by now, you know that saving money is a big part of this project, and I'm trying to save every dollar where I can and when I can. Big part of that was trying to find the fittings to run all of my AN line now, and fittings are decently expensive. Usually for a standard fitting, AN 8 to AN 10 for these fuel rails runs about $5 to $7 a piece, depending on where you get it from. And then there's some other ones that I'm going to need, like NPT to AN for the valve cover and for the intake. All that adds up because these are about $26 a piece. And so spending hundreds of dollars on fittings was going to be my next goal. While I was doom scrolling on Facebook Marketplace one day, I ended up finding somebody who was selling a bunch of aluminum fittings. And hopefully there's a picture up here now. And so when I looked at these fittings, I was like, man, I wonder if those are AN fittings. And I just happened to message them and I said, hey, what are the sizes? And they told me, hey, I've got a bunch of people messaging me. You want to come take a look at them? Come take a look. And so I ended up looking, and we got ourselves a good $300 worth of different types of fittings right here. And we've got all types of sizes. So mostly AN 10, some AN 8. And the big thing that I was really hoping for was AN 8 to AN 10 for my fuel rails, because I'm doing a 10 feed and an 8 return. So luckily, a lot of those fittings were AN 8 ORB to AN 10 JIC, which is great because it's exactly what I needed. So picked all those fittings up, and now I can run a lot of that stuff. I think the only things that I have left are these specialty NPT to AN fittings, which not a big deal. I gotta spend $50 on 2 fittings. That kind of hurts. I did pick up all of those fittings for $50, which is awesome. So saved a ton of money there. On top of that, the other thing that I was concerned about was new plug wires and coil packs, because the old coil packs that I have were square style, and they're not bad, but they're definitely dirty. They're worn out for sure. I was going to clean them up and try and run them, but I thought maybe that's not the best thing to do. So I found somebody on Facebook Marketplace, once again, who is selling brand new coil packs. Are they Chinese? Probably. Do I care? Not really, as long as they work. But not only did I find a full set of coil packs, give me a full set of spark plug wires and a full set of spark plugs. The only thing that I'm left with now is taking my existing coil pack bracket, because these were designed for square style coil packs. I will have to cut or notch some of these a little bit to get these to fit properly. And then I'll also have to work with these plug wires to get them to feed around the headers. All right, so I need a ton of clearance on the right side of each one of these, and you can kind of see where my line follows right here. Instead of cutting a bunch of notches out and everything and trying to get it to work, what I think I'm gonna do is just go ahead and keep this together and start making cuts somewhere along, like right here, so that way I can have a spot, because this metal is fairly sturdy. So once again, these coil brackets don't need a ton of support right here. So as long as I can keep these sections where it all bolts down and keep it hopefully 1 piece or 2 pieces, then I should be good. So I'll just go ahead and start making my marks. I gotta be real with you, my cut job and trying to keep everything as one piece worked horribly, but what I did figure out is that each one of these can probably be mounted on their own, and it's still extremely solid. My fear was that these coil packs are gonna be bouncing around, causing a bunch of issues, but after bolting everything down, it's really honestly not a problem. So I think I'm gonna run each one of these individually, and I get to get rid of this last bolt. And the best part is, this entire factory wiring setup still plugs into each one of these locations with no problems whatsoever. So we'll be able to run that. I've kind of figured out how I want to run my plug wires, and that means that we can go ahead and rinse and repeat on the other side, and that should tackle everything up on the top side of the motor, which means we can start running wiring and fuel lines so that we can really start getting to the nitty-gritty of this build. So I did the same thing to the other side, and now that we've got everything bolted up properly, in the next video we should be able to drop the fuel tank, get our fuel pumps installed, start installing fittings on the fuel tank, get the return set up, get all the lines run, and start getting all the fuel rails plumbed up, so that way we can figure out where our wiring harnesses can go. We'll be able to create some 3D printed grommets for all of our wiring harnesses to go through the firewall, and make any type of mounting stuff for our fuel setup. So as always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more episodes. I'm trying to put these out as fast as I can. So if it takes me a little bit longer to push out a video, I apologize, but doing this at night, you know, whenever my kids are asleep and everything, or at any time that I have, I'll do things here and there and then compile them into one big video. So sorry if it seems sporadic, but hopefully you're enjoying it, and I'll see you next time.
This is a Bang Music exclusive.